Welcome back to Buying Sandlot. Today, we're joined by Eugene Bleecker, founder of 108 Performance, one of the most respected player development organizations in baseball and softball. Eugene's journey started as a coach obsessed with helping athletes get better, and what began in a small facility in Southern California grew into a nationally recognized player development brand, trusted by professional players, college programs, and organizations across Major League Baseball. We discuss why Eugene believes most sports technology is solving the wrong problem, how the next generation of athlete development will combine software, education, products, and AI into a single ecosystem. And we also dive into an ambitious project he's building down in Tennessee around a professional women's softball franchise. But before we get into that, we want to thank Blackmagic Design Cameras for sponsoring the show. Listen, filming youth sports has come a long way. Organizations can now create new revenue streams from live broadcasts using the same products as professional teams. A hockey club in Michigan can use the same camera that the NHL uses behind the goal, and a baseball facility in California can afford the same cameras Disney used to shoot the latest Marvel movie. That's all thanks to Blackmagic Design, who makes it possible. Whether you're a sports facility, club, coach, school, Blackmagic Design allows high-quality, affordable, and easy-to-learn multi-camera streaming and filming. Check out their studio cameras, production switchers, DaVinci Resolve editing and replay tools, and the Blackmagic camera app on iPhone and Android. For more information, please go to blackmagicdesign.com. And now, let's get into the interview. Eugene Bleecker, founder of 108 Performance. Thank you for coming on Buying Sandlot. Before we get into it, just give us a little background on 108 Performance and kind of your resume and everything.
For sure. First of all, guys, thanks so much for having me on. I guess background, I'll try to keep, sometimes I get a little long-winded. I'll try my best to keep the short version. Grew up in New York, loved baseball my entire life, never wanted to be involved with or do anything else. I knew I was going to coach when I was done playing. Ended up out in California trying to pursue a professional contract. 5'10" catcher didn't hit. Started working with athletes and just absolutely fell in love with it. Knew that was my calling and my direction, and just wanted to chase that just like I did baseball, right? So becoming the best at it, right? Like that's the idea. How good can you get? And how good can you serve every athlete in front of you and do the best job you can to make them the best version of themselves? And opened up 108 in 2014, started with three little 1,500 square foot units in Riverside, California. And we went from 60 kids to 100 to a wait list of 200 within, 24 months. Within 36 had a second location in Orange County, opened up with a wait list. That was in, early 2017. So the whole thing just exploded. I started getting a ton of pro clients wanting to come in. Industry heard about the results, went from, just me to 8 part-time to 12 full-time to 16 full-time. Became, a slave to the business, if you will. I loved every minute of it, loved coaching, loved being on the floor, but needed to figure out, what we were going to be when we grow up, right? Like everybody kept saying, you got to figure out how to scale. You got to figure out how to replicate yourself, left California, moved out here to Knoxville, Tennessee, to God's country. Absolutely love it out here. Opened up the business end of 22. The whole thing is just, it's been unbelievable. The last couple of years, it's just exploded. We did, I think it was 650 in top line, 700 first year. And then we did 1.4 year 2, almost, 2 year 3. And then we're on pace to do, a little over 3 this year. So
you talked, at some point you had this unlock, all right, how do I scale myself as on the training and development side into a business? And it sounds like to some extent you've gotten there. I mean, those are impressive numbers in any regard. And so that brings you into the Knoxville miracle opportunity, right?
Knoxville is literally the perfect place in the country. If you could pick any city and you do market research on what the best city in the country to start a pro softball team would be, it would be hard pressed to find a better place than Knoxville. It shows up for its sports. Women's sports here has always been huge, between Pat Summitt and what she did here. And then, Lady Vols softball, you're talking about, you go to a Tuesday game for the Lady Vols softball program, in February or March against Penn State, it's 99% full, it's standing room only. and people are going nuts. Like they have season tickets. They love it. The corridor here for softball is incredible. The amount of families and the amount of kids, and we've watched it blow up over the last 5 years too. The amount of tournaments, the amount of teams, it's just it's incredible. And this city shows up for its sports. Like if you try to, one of the things we learned when we moved to Knoxville, like if you try to plan something with people in the area on a Saturday during the fall, like no one's showing up to your house. Everybody's at the UT game. Like it's 100, there's like 200,000 people in town and the stadium seats 100 and then there's 50 outside and the rest, you know what I mean? Like it's unbelievable.
What was some of the stuff you were seeing in girls softball that was like, I need a pro, women's softball team, and then like how you're helping with like the platform that you're doing?
The idea started with the pro softball team. And then the ecosystem came after that. As I thought through the feasibility of whether or not it was, because it's like it's an idea. Then I have to think through, okay, does this make sense? And if it makes sense, how do we actually do it? Like, for us at 108, the way that we designed this business as a whole, like this isn't a cattle call. Like we're here to do the best we can as a staff to make the athletes in front of us better. We capture all the content of the work that we're doing with them, and then we share the content with the masses so it can help everybody else get better. And then they end up purchasing our products or services as a byproduct of us doing our best for those athletes, right? So it's like it's a flywheel and ecosystem that allows us to not chase anything, right? We're essentially doing the same thing next door. Like, like as far as the pro team goes, I guess to answer your question, what specific numbers are you asking in reference to from when I was looking at the feasibility? Like what's the question around that?
It was global revenue for women went under 1 billion in 2023 to a projected 3 billion in 2026. That's up roughly 340% in the last 4 years. But then the Women's College World Series outdraws the Men's College World Series on television, and then there's the Olympics in 2028 and everything. So just talk on that about.
So not just the economics, but the visibility and the viewership in softball is nuts. Like not only did the Women's College World Series outdraw the men's, but it's actually women's softball is the third highest watched sport on ESPN. You have college football, college basketball, and then it's women's softball. It's not any other men's sport. It's women's softball. And when you think about how women's sports have exploded over the last 7 to 10 years, right? You look at teams that were worth $1 million to $3 million when all that started. Now they're all worth 165. You look at the soccer, you look at basketball. They took a lot of market education. Right. And frankly, like, look, I have 2 daughters. I'm all for women's sports, but, like basketball, like they don't dunk. It's not quite as exciting. Caitlin Clark, like Steph Curry is awesome. But women's softball is electric. Like, I mean, you can literally take a big leaguer and stick him up at the plate, and like Carlin Pickens, Jordy Ball, Najari Kennedy might K him up on 3 pitches. Like it's very unique to women, and they throw gas, they hit bombs, they the intensity and the passion and the they've been chasing it their entire life. Like they make sick plays. Like it's
this last College World Series was awesome. So how do you plan on integrating the professional team into the platform, from the youth pipeline and all that, and the recruiting software?
Yep. So just like I talked about the flywheel that exists here, it's the same exact thing. So we're taking over the 8,000 square foot. We have an 18,500 square foot building here. We're taking over the 8,000 square foot building next door. We just took possession of it this last month, right? So that's going to be the nicest softball facility in the country. And that's going to be the training home, right, to our pro team. So between the pro team, the youth organization and training development media engine, and then the SaaS platform, look at it like this. We're not hiring these girls for 2-month seasons. The seasons are only 32 games, and they'll likely never get more than 50, but we're hiring them as employees for the entire year. We're going to teach them everything that we know, train them for the entire year, but then they're going to train our youth program. Underneath our professional team, we're good, just like the European soccer model. right? So it's like a combination of the Japanese softball model and the European soccer model. So in Japan, when you look at how they support and pay those softball professional athletes, they're like parts of the corporation. They look at it as a media and branding engine, right? Like it's a piece of it. So it's the same exact thing. So we're hiring these girls for the entire year, and they're going to train our our local youth under it, right? So we're going to have we have my daughter's team, which will be the transition to 16U national group in the fall. Then we'll do 2 14s, 2 12s, and 2 10s, right? So it's not adding 500 players, right? It's just adding these few local teams here along with our PI. So we also started an academy this last year. We have athletes, we're capping that at 60. We have athletes moving here from all over the country we'll do a high school baseball and a high school softball program. But the pro team is going to train with the national group every day. And then the pro team is going to pour into all of the other local youth inside the organization. We're going to capture all of the content of everything that we're doing with the pro team and the pro team is doing with the youth. And then over the course of from August tryouts, we start in September. Our inaugural season is 2027, right? And from August till June of 27, we're going to capture all that content. And then by September of 27, we're going to be able to release it into a software platform, right? And then when we roll that into a travel organization, any dad in the country that's looking to provide his daughters when they're coaching their team with great information, great practices, great content, like they can be a part of that with us. And at the same time, we'll start doing our regional clinics. And it's not just for teams, it's also for individuals too. And the young girls everywhere will be able to follow these pro girls and girls that they learned from and work with and chase all that same stuff with information that's actually helping. Like when we go do clinics, it's our sign up rate, even for the other app with the boys is nuts. Like, because when we go and do it, like there's a whole bunch of players, like we'll have high school players that legit in 2 hours, they'll go up 14 miles an hour in exit velocity, 12 miles. And it's not telling them to just swing as hard as they can. Like it's more barrels also. Right. So, we have pitchers that we'll work with that, they throw 86 and their arm hurts all the time. And by the end of the weekend, they're hitting 91 or 92 and their arm feels incredible. Right. Like that stuff legitimately happens in every single clinic. So when you start doing that with girls, it's just a whole different ballgame. And when you think about how dads operate with their daughters also, it's like, your son comes home, asks you for a bat. You tell him to go get a job. Your daughter comes home, asks you for a bat. You say, okay, here, honey, I got you two. I got you one for practices and one for games. So when we're providing these people with like real value and the kids are getting better and they recognize that in a little clinic that they spent a couple hours at, their kid got better results than they did in all the training in the last year that they spent all that money for. Like it's putting all those pieces together into this flywheel and ecosystem.
So the idea is really around owning the team, being able to leverage the team and the youth development piece of it to create training content and ultimately funneling people into the training, into the training product and development as the business model, and using the team for content and marketing. Is it that simple? Am I oversimplifying it?
Yes, no. That's a very simple way of looking at it. And on the same token, it's like, so it de-risks the entire thing. But on the same token, if you look at where women's sports has gone, like the market is here for softball. Like the market is here. Like I know people talk about, oh yeah, they tried to do it before. The market was not there for softball. The way the social media wasn't there to be able to drive the ecosystem, but the fans are here. The girls are here. The girls will show up. If you look at the games, you got people flying in from all over the country for them. So like that part is going to work. And right now,
so the pro team itself works just as, hey, this is going to grow, the interest in this is going to grow, never mind that we're going to create a content engine behind it and be a really modern sports consumption product that's consumed through social media. We could sell sponsorships and brand partnerships on that alone. But then on the back end of this, we have all this training content we can use for our training products.
Yep. So there's a whole bunch of different revenue streams. We're not just relying on ticket sales and concessions and media and merch. Now all that exists, right? All that exists, you know, and we're going to use all of that stuff to continue to pay the girls even more. Like, you know, like we want them to, you know, I'm building a path and a future for my daughters and all the other girls that, you know, in the you know, sport that, you know, they chase it their whole life, and it's incredible and it's exciting. Why does basketball have it, but, you know, but softball doesn't, you know? So, yeah. Yep.
What does success look like 2 years down the road? What does success look like 5 years down the road, do you think?
I think success 2 years down the road, I mean, if we're talking a perfect world, we've already gotten a private-public partnership, and we're in land development for our 7,500 square foot stadium. You know, we're in the process of building a school on that complex, along with a baseball and a softball field. You know, building a community here and a destination location for, you know, like, you know, for athletes in baseball and softball community that want to chase their own greatness and be a part of something amazing. And then, you know, we have a professional team that's has some incredible visibility. Yeah.
You know, to put a bow on it, like I love the concept, because we talked, I think you mentioned Curve earlier, and we see a lot of people building kind of like these youth to pro pipelines, and then other people talking about kind of content and the media aspect of sports, especially emerging sports and growing sports like women's softball. You're sort of putting the two of those things together. Like we got this emerging sport, we got the content, and then we got the development piece that we can productize, and we're going to do it all under one platform and own the tech is what I'm hearing.
That's right.
What does that
That's
look
right.
like? Is it developing, like, is the tech, the app to distribute developmental content, or is there something more in there?
It's both. There's definitely something more in there. You know, we have, you know, if you look inside of the, like the raise that we're in the middle right now of a $5 million raise. It's a 30-day. We're in the middle of a rolling close. We're in the first 30-day piece of it. In the last, you know, 2.5 weeks since we started, we've already soft circled around 2.5 million. So we have some incredible, you know, investors and current athletes, pro athletes, former pro athletes, business leaders. And it's, you know, really incredible group. Feel, you know, so blessed to have all these people. It's like you start talking to people about it, and to have this group of individuals collectively together and to get behind it and to be put in touch with them has been, you know, amazing. And if you look at the IP statement in it, we have a lot of very strong IP that we're looking to put into the AI and into the engine that's actually going to read the movement and provide the solutions. At the end of the day, what we're great at is getting people results. I just got done doing an article earlier today. I got asked to put some stuff in for a Baseball America article, right? And it's on you know, AI and apps in, you know, baseball specific, or baseball and softball specifically. And it's like everybody is trying to do all these things that read the data, but the model is wrong and nobody's getting any results. So you can put together all the technology you want and you can roll up all these things. But if you keep allowing people to just pick and choose whatever they're choosing to look at in their organization, and none of them know what to look at, how to look at it, or how to get anybody results, none of it really matters. Right? Like it's like the data points can identify checkpoints or positions, but they're not evaluating transitions and movement. And ultimately, the biggest problem is that they're not providing people with results. They're looking at averages, and elite athletes are anything but average. And if you change this, it generally affects everything else in the system. And half the time, people get worse. Right. Like, and that's what's happening all over with all these different technology interventions that are happening inside of the industry. People want results. They want to be told what to do. They don't want to, like, if you look at high school coaches, college coaches, they just want the information, and players, parents, they want the information that's going to help their kids' arms stop hurting. They want the information that's going to help their kid throw more strikes. So you can start logging all these data points you want, but if you're not giving them the right words, drills, cues, or in the right interventions to get the result, none of it matters. So for us, our content is our development. And by taking all of these things and fitting them into a single ecosystem, like that's everything, you know?
We had Matt Mueller, CEO of Huddle, on, and we talked about this. Said you guys are putting out all this data. It's player tracking, but how do you actually educate coaches on how to use it? And it sounds like what you guys are doing is like, hey, like data exists, but now like let's take a trained person and implement it.
As technology has entered all of these athletic spaces, so much of it is misapplied, misunderstood, not fully contextually understood. And that's why I partnered with a lab in California in 2017, 2016, 2017. And we didn't spend time putting together peer-reviewed research. We spent time going through like what's taking stress off their arms, what's adding stress to their arms, what's getting a better result, what's getting a worse result, right? Because I wasn't interested in publishing peer-reviewed research. I was interested in figuring out how to help the athletes in front of me, right? So, that's what we do here every day. That's what we do with all the athletes that fly in. And ultimately, that's why our business is where it is. Like, we didn't scale because we were focused on marketing. Right. We scaled because we were focused on getting results for the athletes in front of us. And the scale happened as a byproduct. I didn't figure out how to scale my business until, recently, like I said, I was spending so much time working in it. Right. I couldn't work on it.
Well, man, it sounds like an awesome business model. We'll be following along, and good luck with everything. As you guys do progress, feel free to ping us and come back on and talk about your wins and all the news that you guys are having. We appreciate you coming on, and it was great meeting you.
Really appreciate it, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.